You want to introduce me, Aradhana, or could I start the session now?
I would be introducing you first, and then you can take over.
Okay, done.
Okay.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to TechGig webinar series, our endeavor to empower techies. We believe that sharing of knowledge is the key to enhance our skills and grow us as professionals. With this principle in mind, we have initiated a series of webinars conducted by industry experts to give you all a crisp insight of various domains. The topic of today's session is Business Analyst Role in Plan and Agile-Driven Approaches and Skills Needed. Our guest speaker today is Sairam Bingi, Managing Director and Founder, Member of Synergy Solutions Private Limited. Sairam Bingi, Managing Director of Synergy Solutions Private Limited, possesses more than 18 years of professional experience in software development and corporate training. In the software development team, he has been involved in roles throughout the full life cycle, including programmer, module leader, project manager, and business analyst. He has conducted numerous training programs for major global IT companies, including Microsoft, Accenture, Cognizant, Honeywell, IBM, HP, EDS, Mindtree, Tata Interactive Systems, Wipro, Logica CMG, Royal Bank of Scotland, Deutsche Bank, Merrill Lynch, Target USA, and GE, to name a few. Through his experience, he has facilitated courses in enterprise architecture, business analysis, business process management, logical data modeling, project management, rational unified process, agile with Scrum, software effort estimation techniques, requirements management with use cases, unified change management, object-oriented analysis and design, testing, unified modeling, language, software architecture, and design patterns. He holds a master's degree in information technology from Kevampu University and a diploma in management from Indira Gandhi National Open University. He is certified as a project management professional, CBAP, from the Project Management Institute, and also a certified Lotus Notes professional from IBM. So, without further delay, I introduce you all to our guest speaker. Over to you, Sairam.
Thanks a lot, Aradhana. Good afternoon, friends. My name is Sairam Bingi, and I'm certified PMP as well as a certified business analyst professional. Now, before I go into, I'll just quickly run you through the agenda for today. That is the topics that I'm going to take up, and the agenda topics and the session plan layout as to how we are going to proceed throughout the session. Now, in fact, if you can see the title of the presentation today, it is a business analyst role in both plan-driven and agile-driven approaches. Apart from that, the skill sets, or I would rather convey as the essential skill sets that would be required for a BA, irrespective of whichever domain that he works in. So those are the session topics that we're going to talk about today. And the session plan out would be like this. Initially, I would be starting off with the basic concepts, that is to bring in everybody onto the same page, wherein I would be talking about the definition part of the business analysis. That will become the foundation for the talk of mine. And then I would be going into the essential topic, which would be, I would be defining who is a business analyst. In fact, when we talk about the role of a business analyst in an IT company, what do we mean? How do we define a business analyst? That is what we're going to talk about. And once I have explained about defined a business analyst and the role of a business analyst, I will be going into another area that would be I would be talking about the essential skill sets that would be required for a BA. He may belong to a product-oriented company, he may belong to a service-oriented company, or he may belong to any other company which is, using an IT product or an IT application, and he may be playing a role of a PA out there. So I would be, focusing on the skill sets part of it, and the skill sets which would be, required for a BA to do his job much more better. So that would be the third the topic that we're going to discuss today. And then the essential thing is I keep getting a lot of questions wherever I go into most of the corporates when I do consulting and as well as training programs. That is, how do I get into a role of a BA, or am I eligible to get into a role of a BA, or there is a transition of, in most cases I have seen testers getting into the role of a BA. So I'm talking about who all can get into a BA role, and the transition part from when they move from one role to another role. So that also I'll be focusing on. And when we talk about, most of you from IT companies, you know that in IT, we follow either of the two approaches. One is a plan-driven approach. When we talk about a plan-driven approach, all the requirements are documented upfront, and then you move on and and then you go about developing your product or an application. Now, but nowadays, over the last couple of years, most of the companies have come into agile way of doing things, where delivery is done in the shortest span of iterations. So we're going to talk in terms of BA's role in both the approaches, that is plan-driven approach and agile-driven approaches. So once we have spoken about these topics, I will be taking you through in terms of what are the BA career path that might be there for a BA. And apart from that, I'll also talk about, to move on to the next level, what are the certifications which, a BA can add to his profile to climb up the ladder of the career. Now, this would be my session plan, and once I have discussed about this, I would be opening up the session for question answers, and I plan to do this entire exercise in a span of 35 to 40 minutes, and those remaining 15 to 20 minutes I'm going to allocate for question answers, and I'll try to take up as many questions as possible in this session. And even if you can, my mail ID is also mentioned, and you can also forward your email ID, your questions onto my email ID after the session is also over. Now, moving on to the most important part. Moving on to the most important part when we talk about how would anybody define business analysis. So when we talk about definition of a business analysis according to Webok can be defined as a set of tasks and techniques used to work as a liaison among stakeholders, and in order to understand the structure, policies, and operations of an organization, and recommend solutions. This is a definition I have picked up from Webok book. In fact, essentially when we talk about this definition, I basically mean the business analysis is basically the study of as-is and as-is
क्या करें? Hello.
Welcome to GoToWebinar, Webinars Made Easy.
Hello, Sairam. Can you hear me? Hello, Sairam. Can you hear me? Hello, Sairam. Can you hear me? I request all the attendees to be online. We are trying to rectify this issue. Hello, Sairam. Can you hear me?
Yes. I can hear you loud and clear now.
All
Yeah,
right. I think we are facing some
yeah.
network issues. You can resume the
Network issues,
presentation. Yes.
Correct. Thanks a lot. Thank you. Thanks a lot for your patience. I was just discussing about the definition part of the business analysis, wherein I was speaking about how do you go about defining the business analysis. And what you can see on the slide out here is the definition that is picked up from Webbock book. And this is the definition which is given by Business Analyst Body of Knowledge from IIBA, International Institute of Business Analysis. Essentially, what it talks about is the definition in terms of the definition of business analysis, which is as nothing but study of as is business process and doing the to be and proposing business solutions to help organizations to reach their business goals. Now, having said that, I've also included one more slide as to what exactly business analysis focuses on. And when we talk about business analysis, see, basically organizations wants to, continuously keep on, improvising their business processes so that, they keep on becoming more productive, more efficient, and they keep on reaching their business goals. Now, in order to do so, they would have to, keep looking at their internal business processes and, keep making them much more better and much more optimal. And when they need to do that, they need to do the identification of a business problem. They need to, go about and keep looking at the business problems and convert them into opportunities. And that opportunity will take the shape of a solution, and that solution should help them to reach their business goals. So it's basically what business analysis involves is nothing but study of a business problem and proposing solutions. And these solutions, once implemented, they should help organization to reach their business goals. Now, this is what is a standard definition of business analysis. Now, as I said, once I've spoken about standard definition of business analysis, and let me speak about what exactly would be the best practices that are applied across the globe while you're doing business analysis. Now, and most of you, if I see, the majority of the audience have a lot of business analysts. Now, when we talk about these best practices, I have put together some best practices which can be followed across the domain, across the industry. And so when I say best practices, these best practices were applied would give you continuously good results. So when I talk about these best practices, first of all, it is diagnosing the business area. When I say diagnosing the business area, It is basically nothing but study of the existing as-is business process. And then once you have diagnosed the business area, you would have to, propose solutions. So if you see here where I'm pointing out my mouse, so you can propose multiple solutions. And in most of my experience over wherever I have done consulting and training, I have seen that solutions take, three forms, and those three forms are make, buy, and sell. So once you have done this diagnosis, analysis, and solution, you have to gain agreement on solution. You have to gain agreement on the solution. And once you have gained agreement on the solution from the stakeholders, you would have to go about doing the documenting the solution and validating the solution, and also see that these solutions help the business processes or business organizations to achieve their business goal. In fact, these are the best practices which once applied will definitely increase the probability of you coming out with better results. And also this is what is the best practices slide which I have put up out here once I have defined the business analysis. And then I have accumulated those set of best practices into certain steps out here. And if you can see that any business analysis process definitely requires a study of as-is study. And stakeholders play a very, very critical role. So I always emphasize on identification of those stakeholders also would be a very, very important activity. And I'm basically talking about, when I talk about stakeholders, I basically mean the stakeholders who are impacted by the outcome of the solution, both positively and negatively, or in other terms, stakeholders who can reap the benefits and who also suffer the consequences. You have to take in those, identify those stakeholders, and then do something which is called stakeholder management by setting up something which is expectations also would have to be clearly defined. Now, when you are doing those, setting the expectations of the stakeholders and all, there's something which you definitely do, that would be profiling the stakeholders. So profiling the stakeholders, I've included this as a very critical step. Why? Because finally the solution that you propose would have to meet the expectations of the stakeholders. And there are a lot of stakeholders who will fall into different categories like high power, high influence, and high power, low influence. So those are the parameters on which you can you can profile your stakeholders. The most important critical thing that is involved in business analysis, this is through my personal experience, I talk about it, is identifying the problem. And when I talk about this problem, I'm basically talking about the business problems. Now, once you have identified the problem, gain agreement on the problem, and then propose solutions. So solutions can be multiple solutions. And these multiple solutions have to be presented to the stakeholders, and they would have to pick up one solution, and that solution, whichever they have picked up, agreement has to be sought on that, and then it has to be taken for deployment. And assessment of the solution once deployed, whether it is actually helping you to take up the, reaching the business goal, that was also a continuous activity which keeps on happening in the business analysis, the process. So these are the steps which I have put out here, more or less. These are the steps. I have consolidated these steps, and these are the best practice steps that I have consolidated and put them in order out here. Now, once we have discussed about the definition part of a business analysis and the best practices of business analysis, now let's move on to the most critical important thing, which is trying to understand as to who is a business analyst. And I believe the majority of the audience, they also comprise of majorly business analysts. So when I say business analyst, he is basically anyone who is representing the interest of the business stakeholders, and he is the one who is eliciting eliciting the requirements, documenting the requirements, and managing the requirements. And he plays a very critical role in terms of he has to do a lot of communication among stakeholders, and he has to negotiate solutions between stakeholders and gain consensus. This is very, very important point what I have said. So when you are negotiating solutions and gaining consensus among the stakeholders, a lot of soft skills and interpersonal skills are mandatorily required for a business analyst. And because stakeholders present a huge challenge in terms of one solution being given a preference and they're not coming on to an agreement on the solution part. So PA has to have a very, very persuasive and very he needs to have very good or I would rather say very good negotiation skills that he would have to apply while he is trying to get a buy-in on the solution that is being presented. And once the solution has been implemented, you have to basically check on the performance of the solution, whether it is actually helping the organizations to meet their business goals or not. So this is what I have. I basically talk about the major key role of a business analyst would be. Now I have put up a figure out here. If all of my friends, if you can see the figure out here, is basically I've said what is the business analyst role here when I talk about. If you can see, eliciting the requirements is a very, very critical thing that a business analyst would have to do. And scoping is very, very important. When I talk about scoping, scoping is a very, very important activity for basically fixing the boundaries of the solution or your project. And this will definitely help you to do something which is called as managing your scope and avoid scope creep. So this avoiding the scope creep and all that would come under define scope of a business area. Now, and analyze and document requirements. When I'm talking about analyzing and documenting requirements, I'm referring to the deliverables. If you follow plan-driven approach, I'm talking to BRD, business requirement document, FRS, functional requirement specification, FSDs, functional specification documents. I am basically talking about those. And if it is agile, and many of the audience, if you come from an agile background, in agile they talk about something called product backlog. So, but invariably either in a product backlog or in a BRD, but in a product backlog you will do the documentation in terms of user stories, and in BRD it is a much more elaborate documentation that you do upfront before you actually start the development part of it. Now, validating the solutions is also very important. Once you have identified and proposed solutions and gained the agreement and all, validating the solutions, whether it is helping you to reach the business goal or not, is a very, very critical part which has to be played by a business analyst. So that's what when I say a business analyst has to do, represent the interest of the business and convey those interests, understand those interests, and act as a bridge between the business interest people and the internal development team. So I have basically consolidated, or otherwise I have projected what exactly would be the roles of a business analyst that he would have to do. So now here, if you see, I have used this in the slide. Now most of you are any practicing business analyst. Now during the course of work or in the experience of they working on different projects, you must have seen that they would have to exhibit a lot of techniques. So when we talk about those techniques, elicitation techniques I consider are very, very important for a business analyst. I would rather say I would qualify these elicitation techniques and problem analysis techniques and modeling techniques and documentation techniques as into the umbrella of techniques. When I say elicitation techniques, I basically mean to draw forth or to bring forth or to extract or to apply a process of uncovering the requirements, or otherwise eliciting the requirements from your stakeholders. So when you are eliciting the requirements from the stakeholders, a BA would be using various techniques such as there are a lot of techniques such as interview. You have a technique which is called as survey technique. You have something which is called as brainstorming, focus groups. You have joint application design or joint application design. Now all these techniques will help you to elicit the requirements. See, I'm of the view, if your requirements are documented correctly and if your requirements are quality requirements, then definitely the quality, you would increase the probability of you coming out with a quality product. So elicitation techniques is a very important technique, and I also use another one which is called as modeling technique. When I say modeling technique, I basically mean now you must have seen in most of the deliverables that BA works on that they would that would include a lot of models. And when we talk about models, I talk about use case model, I talk about data models, I talk about wireframes, I talk about wireframes, and I talk about the workflow diagram. So many things, so many models can be used by BA to elicit the requirements and as well as document those requirements with the help of models. So that would come into the modeling techniques part of it, elicitation. And finally, the critical role that has to be done by a BA is to identify the business problems. So that is where I have put in this problem analysis techniques. And then finally, I say whatever elicited requirements that you would have elicited, you would have to document those requirements. So documentation is very, very important. And in most of my experience, I have seen in across the organization they use different names while they are doing the documentation. But most familiar the names that I have come across are BRD, functional requirement specification, FSDs, and then in agile environment they talk about product backlog, and you might also come across some documents such as use case model, use case specifications. So those deliverables understanding also a BA would have to have, and that's the reason I've projected that as a block here as a key deliverable understanding. Domain knowledge definitely would help a BA, because a lot of IT companies who recruit people from a rich domain experience, because these people, when they go for requirement elicitation, they can carry a huge amount of domain experience, and the requirement elicitation process will become far more very effective. Solution-based validation, change management is a very critical area where a BA gets involved, and the approaches which are followed for SDLC, there is also one more. You have plan-driven and agile-driven. Soft skills also plays a vital role. And for the BAs who are involved in the large projects, I'm talking about the large projects where the number of solutions are pretty huge. So there you go about using some tools for software, the requirement management, and that's the reason I said software tools for requirement management, such as IBM has a specialized tool called Doors, Requisite Pro. So those all are specialized tools for requirement management. That also would definitely help. Now, if you can see on this slide, I have categorized those modeling techniques which a BA can use while eliciting the requirements. So organizational modeling is one. When I say organizational modeling, it is basically the organizational hierarchy. Or organizational modeling, then you have business interaction, location modeling. So if you talk about location modeling, I talk about where all the organization is located at, so you can go for that. Use case is about user interaction with the system and what specific goals that a user is trying to achieve. Activity is a business flow, and you also have object state transition diagram. And these are the three essential, the diagrams which are a part of UML, Unified Modeling Language. And in fact, UML has a huge set of, it's got 13 diagrams, but out of which I have categorized, I said BA would be using three most prominently. And when I say three, use case, activity, object state transition diagram. You also can go for other modeling techniques such as functional decomposition, relationship map. Data flows are definitely used, and then logical data modeling. When I say logical data modeling, I'm basically talking about conceptual model and logical data model. Those are the models which can be part of the delivery. So these modeling techniques are the techniques which a BA needs to definitely have awareness towards. And the next slide, if you see, these are the elicitation techniques which I have put it out here. That is, if you can, I think the slide is coming up now to you. Now, if you can see, there is a elicitation techniques, and those elicitation techniques I have categorized them into, the as-is and the as-is, and for doing the as-is, you can use research and document analysis, observation, and you also have a verbal protocols, focus groups, brainstorming, and then survey techniques can be categorized into interview and questionnaires, and you also can use wireframes, prototypes, the product evaluation trials. These are all the elicitation techniques, and I have put them into one bucket area which is called as elicitation technique. Just to give you just a the techniques which are essentially used by the BA. One is modeling techniques, other one is elicitation techniques, and then the next one, which if you can look in here, as I said, the BA would have to start studying the business process and propose business solutions. So if you're trying to do that, so naturally you can use different kinds of problem analysis techniques, and most of you might be aware of this. And when I'm talking about that, I'm talking about root cause analysis, why analysis, and Pareto, and you also can use one more technique which is basically called which would be called as Pareto 80-20 rule and all. So I have questions coming up. I'll do one thing. Once I'm through with the presentation, then I'll be taking up those questions and answering those questions. Okay. Now, if you can see, there is a slide transition going on, and if you can see, I have come on to another slide that is basically talks about the interpersonal skills which would be required for a BA. And here I've presented as ability to communicate well, collaborate, and negotiation is very, very important. Active listening. So these are all the, most of them can also be put into another bucket, which one would rather say is soft skills part of it. So soft skills also do play a vital role. In fact, as I said, BA's role is a very upstream role where a lot of interaction with the stakeholders are required, and you interact with the stakeholders and gain consensus on those solutions that you propose. So soft skills will definitely play a huge role. Now, I have kept this slide. One thing, the domain knowledge. When I say domain knowledge, I have seen a lot of people who have worked in the domain for a certain period of time, let's say 5 years, 10 years, and all. So they carry a lot of domain knowledge, and they invariably become subject matter experts. And these are the best people who are hired by IT companies, and they send their these people for requirement elicitation because they carry a huge amount of the domain knowledge, and the kind of domain knowledge that they carry will help them to do the requirement elicitation much more faster. So this is one of the other essential key skill sets also which I have included in this thing. Now this slide, if you see here, I have kept it in terms of the business analyst role. And if I see in major of the projects, if you come across in any of the projects, business analyst would play a very important role in requirement analysis process is one, change management and validation testing. He also plays roles in other areas, but I have given more importance to one is requirement analysis. If all of you would be agreeing to that, it is requirement analysis process. And then again, I have change management. In fact, requirements are bound to change, and when requirements are bound to change, there is a change management, and how the changes will be handled. So change management area also would definitely be involved. Validation testing is basically, I'm talking about once that's basically at the level of the solution deployed, UAT, user acceptance testing, where he helps and facilitates that UAT test and all. So majorly, if you look at, these are the areas that the BA gets involved. And I have consolidated a set of the commonly used documents which are used across the industry and presented. And these documents are the artifacts or the deliverables that a BA would have to have knowledge about. And if you talk about a business case, that is basically the most important deliverable where everything starts with. That is, the justification of a why a project is undertaken. And all these projects which are undertaken, they invariably tie to a business goal. So business case is one document, and you have vision and scope document, you have requirement management plan, which are key. How do you go about managing your requirements in terms of establishing requirement priority, requirement traceability, how do you handle the changes which are happening into the requirements. All that are basically part of requirement management plan. You have BRD, business requirement document. If I talk about agile, nowadays we have these deliverables, product backlog, sprint backlog, impediment list, burn down charts. These are all the prominent deliverables. If you talk about the deliverables which BA needs to be having awareness towards. Other deliverables which a BA would have come across to handle the changes. Change plan is one, and change request, impact analysis, change audit reports. And these are done in a very formal way. If the project is a very plan driven, where all requirements are defined upfront and there is a baselining done, and change management or changes have to follow a change configuration management. In that situation, you will come across these deliverables. A BA also does some contribution role, or otherwise he also needs to have an awareness towards project charter and project management plan. But these deliverables are essentially in the gambit of project management, but awareness towards these deliverables would definitely help. Now, a very interesting thing which I have kept it, that is BA's role in plan-driven and agile-driven. But let me try to give an understanding as to what is a plan-driven. And if you see over a period of the past years, when the traditional development was followed, things were done in a very sequential order. If you see sequential, a subject matter expert or a business stakeholder will explain or will be working with business analysts to elicit, to convey the requirements to a BA. BA will in turn document them and come out with the deliverables, and that would be presented to the stakeholder, the stakeholder called technical architect, and then technical architect in turn will give it to the developer, and and then tester, and then finally it is all accumulated into a final product or an application. This is the box I'm talking about. This happens in more like a linear C, and it is more like a relay race what is happening here. And but if you talk about, let's look at the agile approach which you talk about. You have agile approach. This is an agile approach where all stakeholders are there, their backlog is defined, Scrum Master and product owner, and this committed team which is there. So nowadays, most of the projects in most of the companies are following the second approach, which is agile approach. Let me quickly run you through both the approaches as to what is the fundamental difference between both the approaches, the traditional and agile. Traditional, most of you are would be aware of. All requirements are documented upfront, and requirements are defined very, very clearly before the work is performed. Let me give you an example here. If you want to construct a house, defining all requirements about that house upfront and then only doing the construction work will fall into a traditional or a plan-driven approach. If you talk about agile approach, all agile believes in is all requirements cannot be fully predicted at the beginning. So positive and productive changes to the initial concept will arise during development, and this is the evolutionary process. So more in the agile, we say, let's start the work. As we move along, requirements will become more and more clear, and also the clarity would be obtained in the subsequent stages. So this is the fundamental difference which is there in both the approaches. And if you see the slide which I have presented out here, in plan-driven approaches, everything is very predictive. So that means everything is planned in advance. Linear is like a relay race where where a business analyst will give the deliverable to an architect to a developer to a tester. So this is the development. But whereas in agile, the delivery is done in short iterations, not spanning more than 2 weeks to 4 weeks. 2 weeks is the iteration length that we keep it, and more is delivering the business value items at the very, very quick span of a time. That's the main focus of the agile that we have. So if you see in traditional approach, business analyst, you elicit what the user wants, documenting the requirement. Sign off is very, very important thing. In agile also, when we talk about business analysts in agile projects would have to adopt a different practice, which include more frequent use of face-to-face communication. So I have come across in my projects that I have done, BA plays more or less the role of the product owner, and or if a product owner is there, he helps the product owner to elicit the requirements and all. So the BA's role is predominantly there in both the approaches. It's just the way you do about doing a project that varies from traditional to agile. In traditional, you define everything upfront. You follow a very formal change management process, and but whereas in agile, you say it basically is an evolutionary approach where requirements are as you go along, it will become more and more clear, more and more clear. You keep on doing your product backlog grooming. All that will happen in this one. So if you talk about agile, I would rather say in agile, projects in agile are in different forms. The technique, it will vary from project to project. Requirement activities. This is a very essential key thing which I talk about. If you talk about agile or if you talk about plant-driven, requirements elicitation has to happen in both the approaches. So requirement activities don't go away in agile development. Requirement elicitation and negotiation, documentation, validation are activities that still have to be performed during each of these several short development cycles in agile project. So that's what I say. A good BA brings about a huge difference in agile environment also. And huge challenges I have come across where BAs are either helping the product owners to elicit their requirements properly, or they are also playing the role of a product owner. So just to give you a recap as to what we have been proceeding on with here is I just spoke about the BA, the business analysis, the definition part of it, and I spoke about the essential skill, who is a business analyst, and I spoke about the techniques which are required or the essential skills which are required for a BA, and how projects are done in both traditional and the agile approach, and the BA's role in both the approaches is what I spoke about. Now, this is a very interesting slide which I kept it here. Is many people ask me they want to come into the career of a BA. So I have seen a lot of domain experts getting into the role of a BA. I also have come across software architects. While they have been working on a lot of projects, they have gained domain experience and they have interacted with the SMEs, customers, and all. So they also have seen come into the role of the BA. But it depends on the personal choice of a software architects, whether they want to be product savvy, technically savvy, or they want to have the upstream job of interacting with the stakeholders, where people interaction skills they enjoy. And I have also come across the community or the role which is called as pre-sales, and in fact, I have come across pre-sales and BA talk in there's a huge communication happening between BAs and pre-sales, and pre-sales also sometimes gets into the shoes of a BA, and BA also sometimes goes or gets into the role of a pre-sale. I've also come across testers, and I've also seen aspirations from developers who want to get into this the BA role. So these are all the roles that what you can, and even the graduates, fresh graduates, who who love interacting with the stakeholders and who do those who give more who are very comfortable and they want their upstream job of interacting with the stakeholders, proposing, and that kind of interest if they have, they also have seen that they getting into the BA role. Now, a very interesting thing which I just wanted to bring out with this is, there's a question which comes to me when I take up a lot of, I take up SIBAP training programs, and I take up CCBA, and I also take up a lot of the BA specific training programs related to use case modeling, related to the logical data modeling, and so many programs which I take up. Many questions keep coming out with what kind of a certification that one can take up, and to enhance the career and increase the probability of getting into the higher designations. Now, we at Ace Energy Solutions, I represent and I'm a part of Ace Energy Solutions, and I'm the managing director of Ace Energy Solutions. We are endorsed IIB education providers, and we regularly keep conducting workshops related to both SIBAP and CCBA. And when we talk about SIBAP certification and CCBA, both are very well recognized across the industry. I'm talking about the global industry. So these are the two certifications that we do offer, and I've also put in a slide here is of what are the eligibility requirements of for the certifications that are available. Now, one certification is basically 7,500 hours of the BA work experience, which is basically equals to roughly it equals to 5 years plus experience. And there is another level of certification where it is a CCBA certification, which is the lesser experience is required for this. So one can possibly think of taking up these two certifications from IIBA, and they have a business analyst body of knowledge, the book is available, which is on the similar lines of a PMBOK, which has got PMBOK version number 5. So apart from this, I also have knowledge of other certifications like IRBA, ACAs, and a lot of other certification bodies also which are there. And so these are the certifications which will definitely add value to your profile and the resume. And so this is about the certification part of it. Now, I think I've come to the last slide of my this thing, and let me take up questions and possibly try to answer as many questions as possible in the remaining time. So if I can see, I just wanted to see these the questions.
Thanks for the insightful presentation. I request you to quickly take up the questions. Please read out the questions and their answers so that all our users may listen to the insights. I hope you are able to access the questions, Sairam.
Yeah, questions I'm able to, but the panel I'm having some challenges.
Okay, so what I'll request you to do is it's
Yeah.
already out of the control panel. Have you dragged it out?
No, I've not dragged it out of this one.
Yeah, what you need to
I'll
do.
just drag it now.
Yes, drag it out, keep it on the top left corner of the screen, and you can expand it from below and right hand side of it. So you would have a comfortable view of all the questions. We have overwhelming number of questions today.
Oh, lovely. So
Yeah.
that's a good thing. I got one question which I can see here is first question. I am able to see it very short. I'm having some challenges, but whatever I can read, I'll just try to take up that question. Now, how will the BA approach if he gets 4-line para requirement from a client and now he has to develop everything? And I'm not able to figure out the name out here, but that's a very interesting question and a very good question. In fact, just to answer that question, let me put it this way. In most of the projects, in fact, you have got 4-line, the 4-line paragraph requirements, but in many of the cases, you get requirements which is only 1-line statements, and the customer expects you to understand everything and start developing at a very, very faster time. Now, yeah, these are the challenges which you will definitely come across while you are doing the requirement elicitation. Now, the approach that I would follow is, I would suggest in this case is, there is a very good approach which Agile follows is, they come out with those requirements, break them into, the most business value items. When I say business value items, sit with the stakeholders and understand which are the items that you consider them as the highest business value and which you want them to be developed very, very fast and which will help you to get those, realize those business benefits and goals. So take those and do the prioritization of those requirements and elicit those requirements and document, and you do more of work and try to involve your stakeholders and try to make those requirements much more into shorter forms which are called user stories. That is the way that I would suggest you to go about handling if you have 4-line paragraphs, and take those development the cycles, keep them only 2 weeks duration, whereas in Agile, once you have delivered something, the customer is able to see something, he is able to give more requirements and have those development cycles. And this is a very good approach which nowadays is again being called as Agile. So that's what I would suggest you to do for this question. Now, yeah, I have another question. There's another question which is there, which is called, if I don't know, wait. Another question which has come is how we will know that my requirements have been, this has come from Manas, requirement gathering is done. See, the requirement, how will you know that my requirement gathering is done? Okay, now this is a very good question which has come from Manas here. Now, when your requirement is done, I would rather put it this way: if it is a plan-driven approach, if you have a signed document on a BRD where the customer or the stakeholder or the approver or the main person who is responsible for approving the requirements, he has signed on the document, you have validated those requirements in those documents, naturally you can say your requirement validation is done. Now, this is I'm talking about in the plan-driven approach, Manas. But when I'm talking about Agile, I would rather put it this way: in Agile, product owner will represent the interest of the business stakeholders. So it is the business product owner who, if he says, okay, these requirements are up and clear, and he has given those go ahead to those user stories, then yeah, then you can say your requirements is done and you're ready to go to the development. Yeah, and how SMEs will differ from how many Yeah, let me see this question. Yeah. Oh, good. I think now I'm able to expand a lot of questions and all. Okay. Now, business analysts have become a jargon whose skill set is organizational driven. Really need to understand BA has to be technical. If yes, what is the level of technical BA? A very good question which has been asked by Swayan Ranjan, and thanks a lot for that question. Let me put it this way. Yeah, I come from a technical background. Let me give you my background experience. I am basically a Lotus Notes developer, and then I moved on to the level of a business analyst. Now, let me put it this way. If you come from a technical background and you get into the role of a BA, definitely you have a huge advantage when you're trying to, convey those requirements to your development team, because the developers also understand that you have technical knowledge, and let me put it this way, you can be a part, and you will also know what kind of estimation that would require. So it's a huge plus if you come from a technical background. And but having said that, I also have come across people who have come from domain experience hugely, and they get into the role of a BA. Now, it has been my experience. I only talk from my personal experience, from my development projects. When domain experts, they become business analysts, and they are trying to convey something to the developers. These developers quickly understand that this gentleman doesn't have a technology, so they take their effort estimations to different levels. That's, of course, that's my my level of what my experience is. But yeah, to answer to that question, definitely technology knowledge will definitely help. Can you give a solution of negotiate solution between stakeholders and gain consensus? Yeah, Vignan Sampara has asked the question. Lovely. Now, let me give you an example, Vignan. I'll rather use a very day-to-day example. Here, I'm going to give an example of, let's say, if there are 5 families who have gone on a picnic, and in that picnic, they have to go to 10 different places, and this whole trip is going to last for 3 days. Now, you would definitely face a lot of challenges when you're having those many number of families traveling together. One family may say they don't want to go to that place. One family may say, no, we want to cover that place. There may be another family whose members would have fallen sick and all. Now, these are the challenges that a BA would also come across while he's trying to, identify the solutions, problems, propose solutions, and some stakeholders may agree, some stakeholders may not agree. So these are the challenges that you will definitely come across. So you would require huge persuasion skills, and sit with the stakeholders and try to talk in terms of what are the benefits that they're going to get once they implement the solution and all. So yeah, negotiating solutions, and let me put it another way. Yeah, people, getting agreement on the solution is a huge challenging task, and this is very important for a BA. And you would have to focus more on interest rather than the positions and all. Yeah. Does BA's role figure in ITIL? ITIL is basically a process-driven thing, and also BA's role would be more related to the requirement elicitation processes, documenting the requirements, managing the changing requirements. That's what I would say. And this gentleman is Mr. DK. Padmini Komareddy has asked a question. Hi Sai, most companies are asking for domain experts, which I don't have, understandably. I came from the technical background with around 8 years experience. How can I gain domain knowledge and increase my chances of getting a better job? Lovely, Padmini. The very good way of gaining domain knowledge is, if you have put up an experience of 8 years, you definitely would have developed some applications related to some specific domains. So that domain knowledge will definitely stay with you. Apart from that, I would also suggest you take up some domain-related certifications also. There are certifications related to domain, and which are related to the insurance domain, like you have LOMA certification, that is also going to have a huge plus. But in your case, if you have spent 8 years of experience on your 8 years experience, you have developed a lot of applications which may pertain to some domain. So that's a huge plus for you. So you can show cause that domain knowledge. Apart from that, there are some other tips also how you can gain the domain knowledge, Padmini. Shoot a mail to me, send a mail to me. I'll try to help you with those tips. Yeah, how can we go ahead as BA with the clients keeps changing on requirement feasibility? Praveen, Praveen is the gentleman who has asked the question. Yeah, and definitely these are the specific challenges which I keep saying. Please understand one thing, Praveen. In the world, there's only one thing which is constant. That is nothing but change. So we have to accept to the fact as a BA that requirements will keep changing, because requirements change because business dynamics keep changing. If business dynamics keep changing, requirements will change. Now, if requirements change, the question is how do you handle those changes? So it depends on the process that you follow. If you follow a plan-driven approach, you will have a very formal plan-driven approach, a formal change management process. But if you follow an agile, these changes can be accommodated in shorter duration. So that's the reason you go about delivering the product in an incremental fashion. That's what you do when you try to do that. And yeah, Praveen, that's a challenge, and we have to, as business analysts, we have to live with that, and we have to handle those changes. But that all depends upon the process that you follow, and whether you have a plan-driven approach or a change-driven approach. Plan-driven approach will call for a formal change management approach, and change management, is done in a more flexible way when you talk about agile. So I would suggest follow an agile process. How much domain knowledge important for a BA? If I want to change my domain like finance or telecom, what can I do for it? Any certifications can help. Yeah, Sundaresan Ramakrishnan, as my personal experience, if anybody joins as a fresher in a BA, domain knowledge is not a mandate. But if a person has worked in a software industry or a software company and developed some product or an applications, while he has developed product or an application, invariably he has gained some domain knowledge. So I would have to understand as to what kind of projects that you have worked on. And definitely once I have that understanding, I'll be in a position to help you, Sundaresan. But that was a good question, Sundaresan. Yeah, Manas again has asked one more question. Lovely questions, Manas. How SMEs differ from SEA? Subject matter experts are the people who have got very good experience about a specific area that they have been working on. And that may pertain to any domain or the area that they have been working on. So they are all basically called as SMEs. So most of the time, business analysts will be extracting those requirements from the SMEs. But nowadays, in certain companies, you have the role which has been given as an SME role in companies, and invariably they also do the business analyst role. But I have seen SMEs, get into the role of a BA because they carry a huge amount of domain experience. That's a good question. How will you know? Manas again has one more. How will we know that my requirement gathering is done? Yeah, as I said, requirements once they are signed and approved by the approver, that is the time that you can say requirement gathering is done. Same product backlog. If you talk about in product backlog where the number of user stories which are picked up for sprint backlog, those things, if they are signed, that is there. A huge number of questions are coming up. Now let me take up some important questions here. How will BA, if he gets, I'm a BTech student currently working as an intern, which should be a proper roadmap to become a BA? Lovely. Chandramouli Lohani, let me take up some questions from freshers here. Yeah, I would rather take up any formal training program on BA related, and wherein you learn the techniques which are related to, which are required for a BA. Modeling technique, illustration technique, problem analysis technique, documentation techniques. Learn about those techniques, and and the process also when I talk about agile and that would really enhance your chances of getting into, and do some and also do some projects also. I'm a Java developer, want to be a BA. How should I start? Having 2 years experience in Java domain and very much interested in BA. Lovely. Pushpendra, that is a good question. A lot of developers in my personal experience I've seen, they definitely are doing development, but they are more inclined towards people interaction kind of upstream jobs. So yeah, if your interest is getting into the BA, I would rather say that get into either you educate yourself by going through the BA training programs over the internet, or go through a formal training program where the skill sets which are required, showcase your experience as to whatever you have done, and try to bring forth. If you bring forth, there might be some chances that being a developer you have done some requirement illustration also. Show that this thing and project that in your resume, and then get into the BA field. Next is go through a formal training program and request your internal, the moving from one department, one role to another role. Those are also I have seen in most of the companies that are available. So that's what I would say. Yeah. Yeah, testers are very good folk. Testers are very good participants who are getting into the role of a BA. Let me give you an example of a tester getting into the role of a BA. Because see, testers are the people who are validating the solution. So when you are validating the solution, you need to have a very good knowledge about the business. So while you are doing that, verification is one important thing, and validation is usually done by the BA's gambit. While you are testing a product or an application, you are invariably gaining a lot of domain knowledge also. So that's the reason you'd see a lot of transition happening from tester role into BA role. Yeah, testers is a very good, yeah, I've seen that's a very good profile to get into. Testers definitely, I would say, that's a good thing that they can get into. Nowadays testers do a lot of documentation like use cases or release notes, etc. So that nowadays, yeah, BAs, as I say, that's the reason most of the companies are taking testers and training them and then also making them into the business analyst. Ideally speaking, the documentation part is much more elaborate in plan-driven approaches. It is very concise in change-driven approaches, which is agile. But yeah, I said yeah, testers are playing some role of a BA, but yeah, he can also get into a specialized role of a BA also. Yeah. Ravi Sundaram has asked, how shall we utilize BAs as testers? Yeah, now that depends upon the utilization part of the resources and all. So yeah, BAs can be utilized for validation testing. That's what I would say, Ravi. Yeah, scope is nothing but Rakesh Kumar has asked a question called scope with regards to BA role. That's a good question. Now, scope is something like fixing the boundaries of your work. If your scope is not defined, your projects only will start. They will never end. See, let me give you a very layman example. If somebody asks me to clean a room, then I ask him one question: what room? What is the size of the room? What is the length of the room? What is the width of the room? What is my boundaries? So unless and until you don't fix up the scope, you don't fix up the boundary of your project. Unless and until you don't fix the boundary of your project, it will be very difficult for you to close the project. So that's where your scope management will come into picture. And who will do the scoping of the solution? I'm not talking about the project scope. I'm talking about the solution scope. Solution scoping should be done by the BA role. Project scoping should be done by the project manager. So that's where the role varies from this one. Challenges, technical solution challenges. Definitely, somebody has asked me a very good question. That is, this is a very, very good question. So, Swayam Ranjan has asked a question. I have technical solution challenge and process solution challenge. One of the two are two different experts. So BA's responsibility, absolutely. This is where I was coming from. Negotiating solutions between stakeholders. This is a huge responsibility of a BA. So these are the challenges that you will definitely come across. Yeah. So bring them forth. Try to understand both their perspectives, both understand it all, try to logically reason it out, present a rational view, and give some rational backing, and then try to close up. So yeah, I have lots of questions which are coming. Yeah, which are the tools required for business analyst role? Yeah, Venkatesh from, I'll take up this question, the last question. There are a lot of tools which are there, like, the prominent tool which I have seen in my, this one is, majority of the places they use MS Office, which is Excel and PPT, and these are the documents that they will use to document. But there are some specialized requirement management tools such as Rational Requisite Pro, IBM Doors, and for UML, if you talk about, you can use Visio, you can use Enterprise Architect, you can use Rational Rose. So there are a lot of other tools also that you can definitely gain knowledge on. What are the formal training programs available for BA? Renal, we offer from Ace Energy Solutions. We have formal training programs which are offered as a subset of IIBA programs and all. We cover up all the knowledge areas which are which are basically proposed by GABOK, which are 7 in total. We take up all those knowledge areas, and this is our training is a very formal training that we do. And this will give you all the skills which are required for you to do your job very well. Also gain the certification, and if you don't have a job, definitely you can show causes and try to get into the job market also.
Sorry to interrupt you, Sairam, over here. Due to time constraint, I request you to take the unanswered questions offline, which I will share with you through email. So if you would like to sum up the session or answer one question more, you can definitely go ahead and do that.
I'll answer one question more, which happens to be the last one, which happens to be from Shrikant R. Which are all the best requirement management tools, as we have some traceability issues with the tools that we are currently using? Very good question, Shrikant. Now, my suggestion is you please explore a tool which is called IBM Doors, and also have a look into IBM Requisite Pro. But these tools are very, very, very good tools in terms of requirement management. But having said that, please also understand the licensing part when you talk about IBM tools and all is pretty expensive. So you have to take into consideration that. But because of the time constraint, if you can drop in a mail to me, I'll also share you some open source tools which are there, and those open source tools are available for doing good requirement management and all. If you can perhaps touch base with me and drop in a mail, I'll try to share those details with you. Now, there's a lovely questions that have been asked by most of the participants, and I do have many of the unanswered questions also. But I still would welcome you to keep answering, asking me those questions in my. Send me a mail, and I'll definitely try to answer that. I'll just take a quick recap in terms of what I have done. In 2 minutes, I'll summarize as to what I have covered up in this session. See, let me put it this way. I've just taken up only the definition part of business analysis, which is more related to as is and to be. All organizations want to have, to achieve their excellence. If they want to achieve the excellence, they keep on needing, they have to keep on doing retrospection in terms of where they are, having gaps. So as is and to be study has to be done by business analyst and identify problems and propose solution. In order to do that, he will be using modeling technique, illustration technique, problem analysis technique, documentation techniques, and utilizing these techniques, he would have to come out with the deliverables, which I spoke about, business case and all those. So I spoke about this, the techniques which are required for a BA. And then again, I also spoke about the approaches which are present in the industry to develop a product or an application, plan-driven and agile-driven, and BA's role in both the approaches. In BA's role in both the approaches, requirement elicitation is a very key activity. Quality requirements will ensure that the products are meeting up with the expectations of the stakeholder. So BA's role is a very, very, very critical role. This is what I said. And the last thing that I spoke about is the certification and the formal training programs that you can go, attend. To get into the role of a BA, or you may do, you're already working as a BA, you can do your job much more better and all. So once again, I'll take this opportunity to thank TechGig providing us an opportunity. Thanks a lot to all the participants who have come out and attended this session. Thank you. Thanks a lot. And my mail ID is already shared with the moderator. That is sairam@acenergy.com.
I'm really thankful to our guest speaker today for conducting this wonderful webinar. It was indeed a great session. I would also like to thank all our participants for their support in making this webinar a success. The recording of the webinar will be available on techgig.com by tomorrow. Thank you all for joining us today. Thank you, Sairam, for all your time. Have a great evening ahead.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.